Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second Food4Media webinar in the Food4Media Meet series. It is great to have you all with us today. I'm Henry Hemming, Managing Director of Food4Media here in the UK. We've had a wonderful registration for today's event, and it's not surprising. Our title is, What Do Food and Drink Editors Want? And we really do have a stellar lineup of food editors in the webinar with us today. And so before we get started, I'm just going to quickly introduce them all to you so they can give you a wave and say hello. Then I'll just talk through a few things and then we'll get started properly. We are delighted to have with us today Gaby Huddart, Group Editorial Director, Lifestyle and Homes at Hearst UK, and also Editor-in-Chief at Good Housekeeping. Hello, Gaby.
Hi there. Great
to have you here. We've got Laura Rowe, Editor of Olive.
Hello.
Hi, Laura. We've got Leah Hyslop, Deputy Editor, Waitrose Partners Food.
Hi, everyone.
Good afternoon, Leah. And lastly, but not leastly, we have Keith Kendrick, Managing Editor at BBC Good Food.
Hello there. I'm the magazine's editor, by the way, but that's okay.
I don't know what I said. So sorry, Keith. Magazine's editor at BBC Good Food. Great to have you here, Keith. So today we're going to learn about everything from our experts, from knowing when to place a product, knowing when to reach out with a story, knowing how to place a spokesperson, and I think above all, understanding the values and audience of each of our titles. And I think we're going to have a pulsating 1-hour session ahead of us based on the quality of journalists that we've got with us here today. I think doubtless the journalists will give us their thoughts on how PRs can work with them during the current lockdown, but I'm also hoping this will be more of a timeless classic looking at the PR journalist relationship. No pressure on our panel whatsoever there. We had something over 150 registrations for today's event with representatives from brands including Starbucks, Ocado, Yo Valley, Source Communications, Wix Hill, loads more. So thank you all for joining us today. We've got a great turnout. What we're going to do, we're going to play it like this. The panelists will each talk to you for about 5 to 10 minutes on their brand and how they work with PRs and how you can answer their need for content. And then once we've listened to the panelists, we'll go to you for questions. It's never too early to place the questions. Glad to see. Well, we did have one already. It's never too early to place questions. And if you do place them on the bottom toolbar of Zoom, please put your company name at the end of your question. Zoom will tell us who you are. I'm sure we all know where you're from, but if you put your company name, that would be great. Finally, if you're feeling social today, our hashtags of hashtag Food4Media Meets, and we're Food4_Media on Twitter and Food4Media on Instagram. And just to say, I said in the last webinar that I was really thrilled just to put a new team behind Food4Media at the beginning of this year and relaunch the site. And it's gone so well, even in the most difficult of years. And we had a record number of journalist alerts in our 15-year history in April. I think we had something like 240 journalist alerts in a month, which is extraordinary. And the quality of journalist alerts is greater than ever. And if I have to look at one indicator, the fact that we got 6 new subscriptions last week from food brands was just amazing. That's something that we haven't had for a long time. So everything about Food4Media is going back in the right direction, which is very nice. So we're going to now get to the more important stuff, which is listening to Gaby, Laura, Leah, and Keith. And Keith has offered to go first. And he's going to tell you about the way that BBC Good Food works with PR. So just to introduce Keith, he's magazine's editor, BBC Good Food, and has oversight of Easy Cook and the Good Food home cooking series. The brand has been recently shortlisted Brand of the Year at the PPA's, Magazine of the Year in the Guild of Food Writers Awards. It's been a top seller in all 31 years of its existence. Keith is a former newspaper journalist. His passion for cooking developed when he was a stay-at-home dad to his 3 young kids. He still makes them dinner every weekend, and he cooks dinner for his wife every night. which is something I ought to catch up on. His joys are beef, beer, and cheese, and proof of the fact he is indeed the big cheese of food journalism is he's a judge at the British Cheese Awards, World Cheese Awards, and associate of the Academy of Cheese. So, Keith, I'm going to ask you to cover other topics besides cheese, but if we could hear from you now, that would be absolutely great.
Hello, everybody. Henry told me earlier there's about 150 people watching this. So I had in my head, there's a little intern there who had everything to learn. So I didn't feel so nervous, but now I'm kind of going, oh my God. So I've imagined you all in your pajamas, and I hope that's okay. Anyway, I'm Keith. I'm the magazine's editor, as Henry says, of BBC Good Food, which means I'm in charge of our print titles. Good Food, Easy Cook, and our home cooking series of specialist bookazines, the Vegetarian, One Pot's, Healthy. So to answer the question, what do food editors want from PRs? Well, as Henry has said, this food editor wants three things: cheese, beer, and beef. But I'm only one of several food editors on Good Food. Across the brand, we specialise in every area of food culture, from recipes to trends to health to family, travel, and so on. First of all, though, let me say with emphasis, we love PRs. We really do. You help us keep in touch with trends, news, and new products. You take on clients you truly believe in. You introduce us to great chefs, authors, producers, retailers, and destinations, all of which act as a springboard for content. We need content. From your client's point of view, if we feature a product or service in Good Food, it's because we've tested it. We feel strongly about it, and we're really proud to be held to account for our judgment. As Henry said, we're Britain's #1 food media brand, launched 31 years ago, delivering amazing food content on whatever platform our audience chooses to find it, be it print, be it on the website, be it social media, videos, podcasts. We've got a lot. Good Food magazine, which I'm in charge, has more than 100,000 subscribers. That's up 7% during lockdown. And we've got a further 50,000 plus buyers on the newsstand. We're a big beast. We also publish the sister titles, Easy Cook and the home cooking series, as I've said. And our website, our AMP and our app attracted nearly 50 million users worldwide last month. That's a year-on-year increase of 126%. Our content covers the breadth of the world of food: recipes, skills, family, health, travel, drinks, trends, reviews, guides, advice, cheese. And each of these areas is owned by one of our team who is a true expert in a field. Our quality promises are what give us authority. We try everything we feature. We try everything. Whether it's a new vegan energy ball or a recommendation for what to buy this Christmas, a pizza oven or a charcuterie box, recipe extracts from books or a new gin or a steak or a beer, everything is tried by an expert in that subject or by a group of us as a panel. For example, me and my family of 5, that's me, my wife and 3 teenagers here, are currently testing dishwasher tablets along with other members of the team. It is a glamorous life. We develop and triple test all our original recipes, and we test any other recipes we feature, such as those from cookbooks. And we are always, always impartial, a key pillar of being a BBC branded product, which is why we don't accept recipes from any other brands. So back to that headline question. What do BBC Good Food's food editors want from PRs? Exclusivity. We want the story first. Integrity. Good PRs represent clients they believe in. And you understand we will always be honest about your products or service because our reputation as Britain's #1 food media brand depends on it. We want a strong long-term relationship. We can't publish every press release you send us or mention every client or attend every launch or feature every book or visit every restaurant. The chance would be a fine thing right now, but we're in it for the long term. We know there will come a time when we can call on you or you on us for expertise, insights, advice, content inspiration. It's the kind of relationship I forge with many PRs. Toby Hampton from ETS PR is a case in point. We got to know each other over a cheese board, surprise, surprise, when he helped me find an expert with one of his clients, Paxton and Whitfield, for a Christmas story. This led to me attending events and tastings, not always coming away with a story, but the more we got to know each other, the more he understood what I needed, which in turn helped his client, culminating in me being invited to judge at the Cheese Awards, which I wrote about and continue to write about. That's the kind of relationship I love. So what else? Okay, know our content, the sections within our magazines and websites. Know them like we know them. Come up with your ideas to fit in within them. Don't ask us, what are you looking for? Serendipity doesn't work like that. Tell us about some amazing content that will enhance our mag and appeal to our readers. There's no point sending us press releases for motorbikes and sanitary products. That's just two of the things that dropped into my inbox yesterday, because that's not our bag. Contact the right person with your press release. It decreases the chance of them being ignored. It avoids it being thought of as a round robin. And if you don't know, you can ask us on our general email address, goodfoodmagazine@immediate.com or goodfoodwebsite@immediate.com. We always respond. Know our lead times. In print, it's 3 months. It's a long, long time. So we're working on our August and September issues at the moment. The website is more reactive. But from a print point of view, there's no point sending me press releases for Father's Day now. I've had 2 this morning because our June issue has been on sale for a week. Don't send wasteful packaging and gimmicks. We really care about sustainability. So the shot glass, sombrero, single coaster, branded glass, they're destined for the giveaway bench or a charity shop or recycling. Including them just gives us extra work. And please, no balloons. So a bit of detail. I'm going to talk to the print magazine of Good Food specifically because that's what I do. But just know we are a very integrated brand. Content can be created for print and then used online and vice versa. We plan the mag several months in advance. Our ideas are seasonal, topical, useful, driven by events in the calendar, or simply to address the desires of what we know about our readers. Recently, when we went into lockdown, we had to be more reactive, creating content closer to our press days to adapt to the ever-evolving picture in society. The output from our digital team was astonishing, creating videos, Instagram classes, Q&As, feature after feature on the website, and a new Good Food Together group on Facebook, which has already attracted 20,000 followers. As a print editor, especially one from a newspaper background, it can be frustrating watching this speed of reaction happening, but it had an advantage. Instant market research. We could see what was floating our readers' boats. We could anticipate what they would be craving in print further down the line. And in short, that was solutions and escapism. So with the help of the PR community, you guys, we were able to address those desires in the 4 key areas of the magazine, which utilize most PR-inspired content. First, there's the update section, which is compiled by our reviews writer, Anna Lawson. She's your go-to contact for this section. It's 9 to 11 pages at the front of the mag, focusing on trends, food and drink products, books and gifts and/or kit. In June, we featured products that reflected the lockdown lifestyle, frozen cocktails, flavored butters, home brewing, homemade sauces, material supplied by PRs, inspired by PRs. As the nation relied on more home deliveries, we featured a roundup of our pick of the best, all with the help of PRs. Everyone's drinking more. So we recommended tasty tipples from PRs again. I wrote a news story about the crisis facing the British artisan cheese industry with a link to the review I wrote for the website showcasing 15 cheese subscription boxes. Yes, I tried them all. I actually had to buy a mini fridge for them and tried to put it in our bedroom, but my wife put her foot down. Anyway, all facilitated by PRs. We featured a recipe from poverty campaigner Jack Munro's Tin Can Cookbook, more PR assistance, plus our pick of the best Back to Basics books that are out this month. Again, you helped us to do that. And then there's a Father's Day gifts roundup, because it's June, and as dads really want, a microplane eco grater, a Michela beer selection, oh, and a homage to fromage cheese box, amongst other things. Then there's the family section, run by our family editor, Rachel Beckwith. She's the person to contact. All the recipes are created by our team, but there are opportunities for PR-inspired content, such as the top 3 games featured in this month's issue, inspiration to keep the bored kids entertained. And another section where your help is invaluable. Boost Your Skills section, edited by our skills and sourdough guru, who hasn't done a sourdough yet, me, Barney Desmazery. These 14 pages cover everything from next level recipes to sustainability, to interviews with chefs, to new kit, to cocktail roundups, to sustainability advice, to my own cookbook challenge. Oh, and yes, some cheese. Finally, our travel section, overseen by our managing editor, Lulu Grimes. Times have changed, obviously, and we've addressed this in the short term by featuring recipes rather than reviews in our travel section. Bringing the world to your kitchen with the help of a wonderful collaboration with Laura from Olive. Look, Laura, there it is. But another feature focuses on restaurant chefs. They're closed for now, but they're sharing their 10 things they love about their cuisine. It's a great way of combining restaurant coverage with travel, facilitated by PRs. Obviously, we all want to get back to normal one day. And when we do, in travel, everything we write about, just as we write everywhere else, we try everything. We visit the places we recommend and the restaurants in those places. For example, if we're writing about travel, the whole family has to go. And we'll only visit in school holidays with school-age children. That's the example. Final word from me, a word about Christmas. We are business as usual. Products for our gift guides need to be sent into Anna Lawson in July. Anything for or about the taste test that we do, our taste test awards, needs to go into our reviews editor, Natalie Hardwick and Lulu Grimes. No one else on the team is allowed to see any food product from supermarkets, and we'll do our taste test as usual. Anyway, I think that's enough from me. Just remember, if in doubt, send me cheese, beer, beef, or all 3. Thank you very much.
Terrific, Keith. That's guaranteed. A lovely homage to your brand there. And it's very interesting to hear what percentage of stories are coming to you through PRs. It's also very heartening to hear that Christmas is not cancelled. So very much indeed. We'll have plenty of questions for you later, Keith, and we'll come back to you. Gaby, I'm delighted to have Gaby Huddart, Group Editorial Director, Lifestyle and Homes at Hearst, also Editor-in-Chief at Good Housekeeping with us today. Gaby is at the absolute top of her profession. She's worked her way up from caterer and hotel keeper at Reed's offices in Sutton. I remember them well. Went on through Woman and Home for many years, and also 6 years or 5 years at Prima as editor-in-chief. Her new role encompasses Good Housekeeping, Red, Prima, Country Living, and House Beautiful, singular. That is a wonderful range of titles to have control over. I'm sure they call you the Queen of Hearst Castle. You'll just have to allow that one. But Gaby, it's wonderful to have you here today. Please do tell us a little bit about how your team best works with PR professionals, food and drink PR professionals, and tell us about your pages too.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Henry. Thanks for the lovely intro. I think I'm more out of control, Gaby Huddart, than in control. But yeah, I do look after some fabulous brands, and obviously all 5 of them can carry recipe content, and then obviously Good Housekeeping, there's quite a lot of news, food news in there as well. I suppose the first thing to start by saying, well, 2 things. One, I have now going to have the biggest cheese sandwich for lunch, because Keith has given me a massive appetite for some cheese. So cheese recommendations particularly welcome in my inbox today, please. The second thing really to say is for all the people on the call, well done you, because you're probably working in the best kind of PR at the moment that you could possibly work in, because food is having a bit of a moment on our website. So I look after, if I talk mainly about Good Housekeeping today as our sort of the key food brand at Hearst, and our website, normally the big month for the website is December. No surprise there, people looking at recipes, and December we had 5 million UK unique users. Well, we absolutely smashed that in April with 6.5 million UK unique users, and that was them looking at recipe content. So the mood at the moment is all around food. We were talking a bit about it, the 5 of us on this call before we started talking to you, which was the things that people are doing at this time are baking a lot more, making a lot more cocktails, and sitting down at the table as families again. Food, I think, is the thing that during this period has given us all a rhythm to our lives, from the planning of meals to the cooking of meals, to the sitting down and enjoying them together. If you're lucky enough to live with somebody, families have been, getting together around the table again. It's sort of quite an old-fashioned thing in a way, but food has become really central to a lot more people's lives. I think, probably a lot of the people on the call and a lot of us are foodies. So food was always important to us, but I think generally it's gone up everybody's agenda because it's one of the things to get real pleasure from as a form of entertainment. I'll try not to repeat too much of what Keith said, because I suspect all of us on this call are in violent agreement about what we're looking for from PRs, and our brands will carry fairly similar things to BBC Good Food. It's obviously food news. We do a lot of taste tests. We're recipe testing, but I just wrote down a few pointers that I hope will be useful to the PRs on this call. Just things to think about. And some of these, if I'm telling anybody to suck eggs, apologies, but I wasn't quite sure the level of people that were going to be listening. But just, and some of these will reiterate things that Keith talked about. One is just thinking about timing. Timing is everything. So our lead times, similar to what Keith was saying, 3 to 4 months out for print, obviously much short term for the recipe development we're doing for digital, but for print it is 3 to 4 months out, and even longer for some things. So for example, we've got our Christmas cake recipe being tested now, and the Christmas pudding recipe, because they need time to mature and see how they're going to taste in plenty of time that we can adapt the recipes if we need to. And like BBC Good Food, we triple test everything, so they've got to be absolutely right. So at the moment, we're planning actually our autumn issues and thinking about how people are going to be cooking in the autumn. There's very likely to be some tightening belts going on, people wanting to cut back what they're spending as the economy tightens. So we're very much kind of thinking about that for the autumn. And recipe development takes months. So because you're going to triple test, because we are tweaking things all the time, we are thinking a long time ahead. So, to be honest, sending us barbecue releases now, it's over for this year. Even for digital, we've got our barbecue content up there now on digital, and it's just thinking as far ahead as you can, really. The second thing to think about is who, and Keith took us through all of his team. It really helps if you actually have a look at the title and look at the masthead page, because people get very irritated when they get an email or a press release addressed to somebody who left 10 years ago. And we try not to be easily offended, but it just feeling that the title and who you're addressing your press release or your email to is really helpful. So, whether it's to me, and I always field things to the right person on my team, Maker Beck, who is our long-standing cookery director on Good Housekeeping and takes the lead role in food across the portfolio, and Maker will also field things to her team. So I just say, do bother to pick up the title and think about who you're addressing your emails or press releases to, because it does matter. The third thing is as early as possible in a product's life cycle that about it, tell us about it. So what I'm thinking about here is launches. So if you've got a product launch or a category launch, it's pointless passing it off as new to us if it's been on the shelves of Tesco's or Waitrose or Sainsbury's for 6 months. We need to know about it before it goes on sale, because we can really, really help shift product if we love it and we want to tell our readers about it. So that would be my third thing, is just tell us as early as you possibly can. I know it's sometimes difficult to get clients to sign off on their press releases. A million people have to sign them off for you, but we do need to know about it before something's launched rather than afterwards. The next thing I'd say is visuals. Visuals quite often make a story, and you might have the best product in the world. If you haven't got a picture to go with it, it's in the balance whether it will make it onto the page or the website. And sometimes not such good products, if there's an absolutely gorgeous, pretty picture to go with it, will make a page. So visuals are really, really key. And I know shooting at the moment for all of us is harder than it normally would be, but you know, just there are very creative ways around these things, and pretty pictures are important. The next thing is just please don't chase us too hard, because we have got, in the time that I've been on this call, I've got 45 emails in my inbox, and I can tell you that quite a lot of those will be saying, did you get my press release that I sent in yesterday? Yes, I did, and I will follow up where I need to or field to the right person. But don't chase us too hard, because we all have quite a lot that we need to do, and I'm sure all of us read everything that we receive, and we'll either field to the right person, or if it's not of interest, we just don't have time these days to always say, I'm sorry, but it's not us. So please don't chase too hard. And then the last thing really to say is, which may be not quite such a thing for the dedicated food titles. Obviously, Good Housekeeping is a 100-year-old brand, and food is absolutely a key category, a key vertical for us, but we are a lifestyle title, so we do have carry content both in print and online around other areas of life, be that homes and other areas of lifestyle. So what I'd say is, with a food brand or a client that you're working with, just really try and think outside of the product, be creative. Throw us a curveball sometimes, because there might be another story that can work for us. So for example, Good Housekeeping, we have a lot of features pages where we're profiling interesting women and interesting entrepreneurs. And if it may be, so a company like Nosh Detox, which is probably a little bit askew in terms of the products for us, but the founder is absolutely fascinating. She looks great, she makes a great interview, and that's something that would work for us. So I'm thinking, looking for those sort of either the individuals or the other stories around a product where the product might not be the most, you know, we might not be able to cover it because it's too ordinary or it's too left field, but the people behind it could make the story and get the news of that product out there through another route. And that's those are my key pointers.
Terrific, Gabby. I think we'll have questions for you later, if that's okay. I'm keen to get through the panel, but that was immensely illuminating. Okay, so next up we've got Laura.
Hello.
Who is editor of Olive magazine, which I believe is published out of the Bristol offices.
No, London.
Oh, London. Okay,
yeah.
Sorry, my mistake.
No worries.
So Laura's been a UK food journalist for over a decade. Started with the freemium local titles, I think, in the West Country. Since then, she's written for The Guardian, Love Food, was editor of local food magazine Crumbs, which won the Guild of Food Writers Food Magazine of the Year during her tenure. She's also styled and numerous best-selling cookery books. She's authored the book Taste, the infographic book of food, and has then become editor of national consumer food brand Olive. During her time there, Olive's podcast has become Best Lifestyle Podcast, part of the whole podcast rejuvenation. And she's been Food and Drink Editor of the Year quite recently as well. She lives in London. She's got a phobia of baked beans, strange, but I'm glad to say she's absolutely addicted to Negronis, so that's the good news.
And margaritas during lockdown as well. That's my new addiction.
So Laura, great to have you here. Over to you, please.
Thank you.
How Olive best works with our audience of PRs.
Yeah, well, it's really hard to follow Keith and Gabby because they had obviously amazing things to say. And again, I would concur with most of what they say. So I think it's probably most helpful to give a bit of context of what Olive is. And about our team and about how we're working during lockdown as well, because it's obviously slightly different to normal. So again, I don't want to teach anyone to suck eggs at all. So forgive me if I'm being patronising in any way. But so Olive's been around for about 17 years. We are a food brand, but we cover our three main editorial pillars are cook, eat and explore. This is normally, so cook is recipes. And again, we create all of our own recipes or employ freelancers to do that for us. So we don't have branded recipe content at all unless it's part of a paid for partnership. So yeah, that's one thing that is a good thing for PRs to know, because I get a lot of emails about branded recipes. We do have product pages, and within those product pages we cover food, drink, books, kitchenware, anything, you know, it could be a piece of art that's got food on it. It could be stationery that's got a food or drink related to it. So anything that kind of would interest a foodie. And I think that's really important thing to note, as well as our readers are absolutely food obsessed across all of the platforms. So they kind of want food to be in all aspects of their lives. So that's something to definitely bear in mind when you're pitching products or people or brands. We then have our eat section, which is generally towards restaurants and chefs. So we're always looking for PRs to work within those areas. And then we have explore, which is our travel section, which is obviously greatly changed at the moment, as well as the restaurant section too. But yeah, there's lots of opportunities there in the travel section. Even now, it's harder obviously to go on press trips at the moment. But a lot of the travel that we've been doing recently is focusing on the people and the producers of an area. So we have a feature called Movers, Bakers, Shakers, which I really love, because it's kind of talking about all of the flavors of an area. So that could be, you know, the botanicals. I'm subbing a feature in the back, well, not right now, but I was subbing a feature before we came on this webinar about the Hebrides, and it's about all the botanicals that are sourced in that area to make up a gin. Or it could be, you know, the cheese maker of the area, which Keith, I'm sure will already be ahead of me on that one. Or it would be, you know, the beer or the whatever it is. But it's really nice again to see all the faces of those areas, the people that are making the products, and the tastes and experiences you can have in the area. During lockdown, obviously and I should say as well, we are slightly different beasts to Good Housekeeping and to Good Food, where we are a smaller brand, but we've massively grown over the last 5 years. And even during lockdown, we're up in all of our areas. We're up on subscriptions. I think we're up 10% year on year. Our website's up 200% year on year. So yeah, we're doing quite well, obviously riding the wave of everybody cooking more. And I think we've got a really great product to help shout about some great brands. What else was I going to say? But yeah, in terms of the practicalities of contacting us during lockdown, it is slightly different. We've only got, there's 6 on my team working full time at the moment. I've got some great support from the food group at Immediate, which is Keith is part of. So that's been really, really helpful. But in terms of practically contacting people, there's not too many of us anymore. So I'm always a good person to speak to, because again, like Gabby, I can field to the right person, but it definitely helps if you can find out who the right person is. So for drinks, for example, that is our drinks writer, Hannah Guinness. And then kind of anything else. So cookery related would be Janine or Adam on the cookery team. And then anything else would be me pretty much. And we all test everything at our homes. Everything is tested again, like the other brands, and I'm sure Leah's the same with her team. We test everything. So at the moment we're having products sent to our home addresses. Again, packaging is really important, and it's been kind of alarming with some of the stuff that's been coming to my house. I feel like embarrassed taking all of this packaging out, because that's not how I live my normal life. So I would really appreciate kind of sustainable packaging for products that are kindly sent to us. We can't feature everything, but we'll feature the stuff that we feel really, really passionately about, and we would never accept products. It's kind of not good to send unsolicited products, basically. We will always ask if we're interested in something. And to Gabby's point earlier, it's probably a bad thing that I do, but I do try and get back to every email, but actually it's not a good way for me to work, because I get like up to 500 emails a day if I am being particularly active in replying. So you'll have to forgive me if we don't reply to everything, but if we're interested, we will always reply, and we do read everything 100%. What else? Another thing that I'm really passionate about and always have been, but particularly I think we all need to be talking about it this week, is obviously I'm very aware that our panel is all white, and that's something that's a problem within our industry and across the board. So I'm, really, really, really interested in hearing about any businesses of BAME and, talking to people of that, of anybody. I just want to get in touch, and you PRs are really, really important in helping us do that, as you are with anything. So we want to champion more brands, products, people in BAME. And yeah, I think that's kind of all I've got to say. I'm conscious that I want to give Leah some chance to talk before we have questions too.
Great, thank you very much, Laura. Very good point to the end. Maybe we'll get a question on BAME in the food industry to take that debate forward. But great to hear. I'm going to crack on because we've got so many questions piling up. We'll get to them really soon. So last but not least, we've got Leah Hyslop, Deputy Editor of Waitrose and Partners Food, and a prolific freelance food writer. Her CV reads sort of freelance for the Metro, Guardian, Times, Foodism and others. She worked at the Telegraph as a food and lifestyle editor, then on to food director Sainsbury's magazine, and now with Waitrose magazine. She's written on everything from Japanese whiskey to gourmet donuts, interviewed Jamie Oliver, Tom Kerridge and others. And finally, she's an author of a book called Made in London, which covers London food from Tudor oyster peddlers to Victorian pie and mash shops, and more modern clubs and street food in London today. So that book is available right now on all good Amazon outlets. Leah, lovely to have you with us. Over to you.
Hi everyone. So I'm the Deputy Editor on Waitrose and Partners Food. We obviously a little bit different to the other brands here in that we are a supermarket magazine. We have a circulation of just under 700,000. We exist largely in print, though we do also have an app that's been doing very well during lockdown because people are struggling obviously to get into the shops so much to pick up their copies. I think a thing that a lot of PRs don't always realise is that the magazine isn't actually published by Waitrose in-house. It's published by John Brown Media, which is part of a big global agency that produces magazines and other marketing content across the globe. So we work in a different office. I think it works quite well because we bring quite a different lens to things. You know, we're foodies and journalists foremost, and we come up with fresh ideas for a good magazine. What I can't do is get your beer stocked in Waitrose. I don't sit anywhere near those people, so I wish I could, but I can't. Like everyone else has said, we use PRs a lot, although we can seem a bit abrasive on press day. We do really value you. We get a lot of ideas from you for products and chefs. And again, I apologise if this is very patronising, but I suppose the first thing to say is that quality stories that are relevant to our publication and audience is the most useful thing for us. A PR who has really targeted a story to us, something exclusive that feels that it really works for our audience, is always going to get more attention from me. As I think these guys have said, we get emails about everything, and a lot of it just doesn't feel relevant. You know, we're probably not going to run a fizzing candy freak shake recipe. It's not our kind of thing. Our readership is slightly older, if this is useful for tailoring stories. So 66% are over 45. Nearly 3/4 of them are women, and they're nearly 3/4 ABC1. They're interested in seasonality. They're very interested in kind of the ethics and provenance of food, which I think people are increasingly right now, but the Waitrose shopper is very hot on that. They're interested in health. And they're interested in trends, but they're not obsessed with them, I think. You know, they want to know the latest things, but they're not kind of desperate to cook the latest street food as much as maybe some other magazines. We start every month with a brainstorming meeting with Waitrose and Partners, who often tell us the kind of things they want to push. But we always come up with our own ideas as well, the things that we think readers will want or be interested in at that time. And like these guys have said, quality is everything for us. You know, we test all our recipes, including stuff from cookbooks and chefs multiple times to make sure it's absolutely right. And products that we recommend, we try, and we really want to make sure that you know, we love them and we know the readers will love them. So in terms of working with PRs, I would say there are some slots where, to be honest, it's hard for us to work with PRs. Things like our everyday recipes, our kind of health content, you know, they tend to be done in-house. but we do have slots where we work with PRs quite regularly. So those are kind of largely our guest chef slots. We have one called My Weekend Menu and one called At Home With, where a chef shares, you know, their home recipe that they love. We work with PRs a lot for those. What I will say, as in most things, you know, a chef who will file on time is a great and treasured asset. As I think Gaby said, you know, these magazines take a long time to put together. It might not seem a lot to the chef or you, perhaps, if the recipe is 3 days late. But for us, that means the food team has to work a lot harder. You know, the shoot is you know, even closer, and it just has this knock-on effect. So filing on time is crucial. And recipes that feel right for the audience. Again, I think, you know, our readers are home cooks. And although we as a team love eating out in, you know, restaurants and eating often quite kind of high-end experimental food, those recipes don't always translate that well when you actually get down to publishing the recipes in a magazine. So cooks that kind of chefs that understand that, we really like to work with and are happy to kind of, you know, happy to work with us on simplifying where possible. We know not all of them will want to, because that's not their bag, but it does help. The other place we tend to use PRs a lot is in our news pages, which we also have. It's called The List, and we feature things like new cookbooks, new products, new restaurants in there. What I will say again is, as a supermarket magazine, is that we tend to feature products that are available in Waitrose, which can make it quite hard, I think, for some PRs. So you have to be a little bit creative sometimes in getting things in our pages. You know, if you could have a chef or an expert who can give us some tips, for example, on how to, you know, shuck an oyster or create a cheese board, that's the kind of thing we can use, even if we can't use, you know, your products. I think everyone else has covered this, but we work very far ahead. We had our October meeting yesterday, and that was late, to be honest with you, for us. So we are looking at Christmas now, really. Christmas is coming up. So that's kind of your next slot for pitching stuff to us, and that's happening now. And the last thing to say, I think we've touched on this really, is that COVID-19 is kind of really drastically changing the way we're working right now. As I think Laura said, you know, things like our restaurant sections and our travel sections are just not functioning the way they used to be. It's because we work so far ahead, it's very hard for us to say right now that we're going to feature a restaurant in the October edition. We don't know if we're going to be in lockdown. We don't know if that restaurant is even going to exist, quite frankly, because so many of them are struggling. So we're really keen to support restaurants and chefs if you work with them, but we're having to do it in just slightly different ways, you know, whether it's their recipes for cooking at home, that kind of thing. So thinking about that is a good idea. I think everyone's kind of touched on this, but exclusivity is important to us. If your recipes and your pictures have been kind of mailed out to everyone, we might be a little bit less likely to feature it than if you come to us with a really good story. And in terms of contacting, email is usually best. I can always forward on to the rest of the team. You can call me if we have a relationship and you have an amazing story that can't wait. You know, you have half an hour with Jamie Oliver this afternoon, and do we want it? His helicopter is flying in. Yeah, give me a call. But otherwise, email is kind of easier to fit around the working day, I find. So that's it, I think. We better take some questions, better we?
Great. That was a lovely way to round things off from the panelists, Leah. Thank you very much indeed for that. And as you say, let's get cracking on questions. And it's Christmas first, I think, because we've got so many questions on Christmas. We've got Leslie Parr at Splat PR, who says, how are you handling requests for, assessing new products, especially Christmas at this moment? So we'll cover that. You know, how do you want to receive new products? Are you working on Christmas? Leslie wants to know that. Edward Hampton at ETS PR. How do you see Christmas in July happening this year? Do you see Christmas in July happening? And finally, Pippa Evans at Wicks Hill. Can you give us insights into how you're going to tackle your Christmas coverage this year? Have you put it back slightly because the brands themselves have put back final decision-making on Christmas? Where are you at? Gaby, may we start with you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're finding workarounds for things. So with products at the moment, they are going to individual members of the team at home. But obviously for the taste tests, some of those we do want to do when we can reopen the Good Housekeeping Institute Cookery School, which we're anticipating early opening, well, the earliest is sort of probably 3rd week of June, but we are going to put some of our taste tests back slightly. I'm really sorry, by the way. In order for me to be talking to you, I have to have my sound on full, but it means you do hear the bleeps when my emails drop into my inbox. So apologies about that. So we are pushing our deadlines slightly later on some tests, and in fact we will be cooking the turkeys for shooting. For print we will be shooting them slightly later, so it is, I think early September is going to be extremely hairy in terms of pushing those deadlines back. But depending on what it is, I mean, if you either get in touch with me or with Maker on the food team, or with the GHI team, just on testing products, if you email us about when's the best time to send it, we will tell you. We desperately want your products, we desperately want to work with you and promote those products. So just perhaps liaise with us first. At the moment, you can't send product into either the Good Housekeeping Cookery School or to House of Hearst at our offices, because both are actually still closed at the moment. So we are kind of working through those things at home, and then we'll be pushing our shoot dates back as far as we can. In terms of actually the kind of feel of Christmas this year, I do think people are going to be feeling the pinch economically, and I think 2 things really. I think people are going to really want Christmas with family, and food, again, as I was saying earlier, is going to be very central to that and quite kind of nurturing, and people looking for comfort as in their celebration and bringing family together, hopefully. So I think food is going to be key, but I also think people will not do gold leaf on everything. I think it'll be less gold leaf and more homespun and more economical, with the flamboyance, if that makes sense. So I definitely think it is going to be a little bit different this year in terms of what we think our readers are going to cook. I think there'll be more saving up, and people will want a very good Christmas for sure, but they'll probably save up for it a bit more. And I think even people who are perhaps more immune, so some of our older audience, similar to to Leah's, who are perhaps more immune to the economic woes that are starting to come through and will do more in the autumn. I think even those who are affluent will still not want to be as flamboyant with other people. I think there's a great sense of community now in terms of how people are living. And the other thing I'd say that, sorry, I'll shut up in a minute, but I think food banks are going to be really important for all of us to recognise, and for all of you and your clients to recognise, because there are people who need to use food banks more than ever before. And I think in terms of giving back work that food businesses can do with the food banks, particularly in that lead up to Christmas, will be really important.
Terrific. Just before I turn to the rest of the panel, just a reminder to our audience to still place questions. We've got quite a few to get through, but I'd like a greater spectrum of questions. So do put your questions there now. Laura, what is your take on Christmas this year?
Well, we're actually bringing our planning forward, because our Christmas issue last year was out in November, but it's coming out in October, and we're having 2 issues this year in print. So that's really important. So, and also again, to Gaby's point earlier about, yes, digital is reactive, but actually to make sure that we're ticking all the SEO boxes and things and getting ahead, all of that is quite far advanced as well. So we're starting planning for Christmas this month. But there definitely is still opportunity for things to be featured later on in the year. It's just our planning and kind of key themes and trends will be planned now. I think, I think there definitely will be some penny pinching later on in the year, but I think I get the feeling that there will be, almost in terms of shopping habits, back to business as usual to some extent. And I think that people will be really wanting to make Christmas a special family occasion. Food will play again a central part of that, and thoughtful gifting. I think everybody's being a bit more thoughtful and mindful. I think I wonder if people will be doing, I'm sorry, every time I do a webinar my cat gets involved. He's scraping at the window, so I'm sorry if you can hear that. I think that I wonder if people will be sort of looking to do more complicated things this year. I think nostalgia would be a big trend, sort of comforting flavours that they've tasted before, but maybe slightly more extravagant in terms of processes. Everybody's got used to doing more complicated cooking, you know, doing their sourdoughs, doing their cinnamon buns or whatever it might be. So I think people will be kind of pushing the boat out a bit more. And in terms of practical things like our Christmas taste test that we do, again, we're planning to do that in the offices, hopefully. And, you know, it will be slightly different to before, and it will be socially distanced, but it'll still be blind tasted, and we'll still be kind of following all the procedures that we did before. So they'll be really important for us for Christmas as well. And I think that readers will want to trust those recommendations more so than ever, because they'll care about where they're spending their money.
And Laura, when will those 2 October issues go to print?
Oh gosh, now you're testing me. I think it'll be around August and September time.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're going to be you're still kind of Christmas in July. You can't put it too much.
No, and to the point about Christmas in July, I've had some brands approach me. I mean, I've got one brand that I think is doing a virtual dinner party, which will be exciting, trying their products at home over Zoom. And there's, you know, I've been invited to Zoom webinars for Christmas in July. I think everybody's really time pressed working from home, so anything that can be as efficient as possible to get your kind of message across, or your brands, multiple brands message across, will be really gratefully received at this time. Great.
Keith, how is your team handling Christmas at the moment?
I guess we call it business as unusual at the moment. Everybody is working from home, and they are receiving products in their own homes. It's being coordinated by Anna Lawson, our food and reviews writer. All queries really should be directed to her, and then she can farm out to the team. We've got 3 stabs at Christmas. We have a homemade Christmas bookazine, which comes out at the end of August, believe it or not. And that's a big seller for us. It sells about 35,000 copies, 148 pages, perfect bound. We are shooting the content for that this week, so that will be in the bag. We have a vegetarian Christmas magazine, and then the big behemoth, which is good food Christmas. So as far as we're concerned, we are sticking to the timelines that we already have in place. We want Christmas in July to carry on as usual. We're trying to work out how best to communicate with people about that, but get the stuff into us, make the contact. We will work out how we're going to test it, because the way we have been testing things is in our own homes. For example, I shot a vegetarian Christmas cheese board on my roof terrace.
What a surprise.
So, you know, we are, you know, we're sort of reinventing the wheel as we go along. It's really, really exciting, but we don't want the cycle to stop because of this, because we're all managing to function well and communicate well, both with PRs and with each other, to make this happen. I think Christmas is something that people are really, really looking forward to. Even now, they want to be together, they want to be excited. And as much as they will want to save, I think they'll also want to splurge in the right areas. So there'll be some homemade stuff going on over here, and there'll be some treats and luxury over there.
You had all that pent up demand, and people are so deserving of a good Christmas. Maybe we should just hold Christmas now and get it over with. Leah, any festive takes on Christmas from you?
I mean, much the same, in the sense that we have to be kind of business as normal. You know, our timelines are what they are. I'm not too worried about Christmas in July. I feel like the sort of big show movement had died away a little bit anyway. Like last year, I don't know how you guys felt, but I felt I was getting a lot of invites to kind of small dinner parties, yeah, or one-on-one sessions with people. So there was a little movement away from that kind of big showroom where you get very overwhelmed anyway. So I feel fairly confident we'll get good ideas in. I think Christmas will be special for people, but I think we're also going to be a little bit cautious. We don't quite know what it's going to be like. So we may be looking at things like, you know, roasts for less people. It might be a slightly smaller affair than it has been before. So we're bearing that in mind.
Okay, that's very, very helpful indeed. I've got a couple of questions on restaurants. You know, restaurants coming out of lockdown and a new restaurant opening. We've got Emma Hartland-Mahon of J Public Relations. It's a US company with a London office. You know, they've got a London restaurant that's going to launch post-pandemic, whenever that might be. Any advice for her team on when the opening can happen, how best to sell in a restaurant? Is it the menus? Is it the chefs? Is it sustainability? Is it the fact that it's opening post-coronavirus? Anyone strong on restaurants would like to take that question?
I'm happy to
Sure.
answer that just because it's one of our key pillars. But I think all of the above, really. I don't think the post-coronavirus potentially is that interesting, because all restaurants will be interesting to us, however they manage to open. And we'll want to support as many as we can. But I think, it's whatever makes a good restaurant. So yeah, a great chef, a great menu, great sustainability and ethics, and that's what's going to sell the restaurant to us. I think everybody's going to be interested in what restaurants will look like once the lockdown is over. There's lots of talks about socially distancing tables and opening up outside to begin with in the latter part of the summer. But I think, all of the things that were important to our readership beforehand, which is great tasting food and interesting, passionate experts, will still be the key driver.
Okay, very helpful. Any other comments on restaurant launches? Anyone else like to? Gaby?
Yeah, the only thing I'd say, just to add, it goes back to my sort of last key point, which is be creative with ideas, because we won't cover a restaurant opening in my titles, but if there's a really interesting story behind the person who's launching it, or a really interesting story between, I'm making this up, but the female sommelier who's is a first in something, I suppose it's just try and think like a journalist around that restaurant, and what else could you pitch apart from the fact it's a restaurant and it's opening and this is what's on the menu. What are the other stories that you might be able to fit into a publication? Is the head chef from Yorkshire, and that would make a great piece for the Yorkshire Evening Post or whatever. It goes back to sort of when you're a local journalist, you find a story out of nothing. And I think as a PR, quite often now it is hard to place your stories. So just try and think like a journalist and find stories everywhere around that business. And there will be something for lots and lots of different titles, I think.
Okay, fantastic.
I'd just like to say, it's difficult with our lead times. If something's opening this week, we're not going to be able to do anything about that for a couple of months. However, on the website, we did have a section, and it's still there now, which is what we're eating. And we can't write that we're all eating sourdough and cake, because it's really quite tedious. We want great dishes to try. We want to get out there. We are desperate for restaurants to open, and we're desperate to try the food that these guys are creating in this new environment. And that's where we can showcase it, in that section on our website.
Sorry, just to add as well that different platforms that's a really good point, Keith, because often if we can't feature something in the magazine, or if we can't feature something online, then, our podcast that we do, which is a weekly one, is a really good opportunity for us to get those kind of really interesting human stories and hear the passionate tales they've got to tell. So I think finding the right platform within the brand is really important as well.
I've got 3 questions on small and local, and I will, in the third question, I'll actually turn it into a question for you. But Kate Naven of Full Volume PR says, are you interested in hearing from farmers and producers? What's the best kind of news hook that you're looking for from there? Megan Allen of Rural Roots, she has a client her mission is to preserving, so a local jam producer. She says their voices, the voices of small producers are so often not heard. I'm not sure that that's always true, because I think the way the media has championed the small independent producer has been absolutely wonderful in recent years. But again, what's Megan's best way at Rural Roots Media to pitch small and local to you? And then finally, I think this is very nicely consolidated. Alex Mason, PR consultant, says, for small and micro brands with interesting backstories, what's the best info to include in an email pitch to get noticed? Because as Leah said, unless you know someone well, maybe email is best first time, not phone. So if a PR is going to hit you with an email with a small local brand, what do you guys look for? And Leah, why don't you answer first?
I'm always interested in local. I think we're all guilty as food journalists often of focusing on London. It does happen to be where a lot of the great food is. It also happens to be where often the wealthier restaurants who have big PR brands behind them are. So I'm always really interested to hear about local things. As a supermarket magazine, we are limited in the coverage we can give that kind of thing, because, as I said, we feature products that have to be available in our supermarket. So we're not probably as good at it as maybe some of these other guys are. But I'm always interested to hear stories, and there can often be a way to work you in, and even if it's just as an expert voice in something, a tip on preserving from X. There are usually ways. So I'm always interested to hear.
Fantastic. Keith?
Well, we do feature small producers in the magazine every month. Just an example here, which is connected to the BBC Food and Farming Awards. And so we do celebrate these small producers. We also have a local food heroes column. Space is limited, of course, and we can't tell everybody's stories. But a great story about sustainability, about food banks, about somebody doing something for the community. Community is a huge pillar of our aims. So if it's a great story, well told, make it very clear in 3 paragraphs, then we'll have a look, and we'll certainly read, and we'll certainly feed back on everything.
Any kind of killer subject field or first paragraph?
I think Gaby talking about food banks there before is really interesting, and it's local heroes. It's like the key workers who are really making a difference in their communities. These great champions of their neighbourhoods who are making a difference to their neighbourhoods. Those are wonderful human interest stories that we can tell.
Laura, how do small local brands get your interest on email? What makes you sit up?
Well, on a practical level, they have to be available nationally. And I know that's not always the case with small brands, but if they're not available quite widely, it's kind of less relevant to our readership because it is a national readership. So letting us know where it's available is a really good first step. Like I said, to the travel feature we did earlier, I mentioned earlier, Miva's Bakers and Shakers, that's a great space to talk about local producers who are doing really interesting things. But I think with emails, it's always kind of, really succinct, get it to the point in, a really short paragraph. If you've got a captivating image or you've got all the assets to hand as well, that really helps because there's not then a lot of back and forth. Kind of keeping it, but I feel bad because I'm sure lots of PRs know all of these sorts of things anyway. I'm probably saying obvious things, but it's just making, as PRs do so often, it's just making the editor's life as easy as possible, really.
Can I just chip in a little plug for Country Living as well, because Country Living, it sounds like possibly that jam or that preserving person could be a very, very good story for Country Living. They do a section, a regular franchise called Kitchen Table Talent, which is about people setting up small businesses from home, even, making preserves or jams. So if it's a very small producer selling locally, it could be an absolutely gem of a story for Country Living. So again, it's just thinking about the right title for that story. Country Living's a very, very big big audience, and they've got money to spend, and they love artisan producers. So that's already sounding like something for me. But again, back to my earlier point, visuals, the thing that will spark somebody's interest, if there's a lovely visual of both the product and perhaps the maker, that is what is going to really get our interest at the moment. At the moment, shooting people is very difficult. So if you've got great images, we really want to see them.
So as Gaby says, think images. And as Keith would say, know the exact page that you're trying to pitch into so that you go in with knowledge, with a great story, with a great picture, with a complete package. We got a request from some freelance journalists to join our audience today, and I'm going to just pitch a couple of questions from them, from some of the registered Food4Media journalists. We've got Susan Schwartz, who I believe is a cocktail specialist. Are you generally interested in hearing pitches from freelance journalists at the moment? Is that beginning to change? Any kind of more daylight there, or has it been the same during the whole period? And we've got a fairly new writer, I think a blogger, Francesca McKay. What's the best way to pitch ideas to you for articles? Is it like bullet point ideas? Do you need to know more about the writer and their background and where they've appeared, that sort of thing? Can I have just someone who would like to answer that in particular, working with?
I can answer that from Good Food's point of view. The disappointing answer is that we have limited space in the magazine. We have a food and reviews writer. We have a handful of freelancers that we use, but most of our content is generated in-house or is inspired by the PR community or by our own digging and research. So to commission writers we just don't really have the capacity to do that. The website has more opportunities to commission writers, and the short answer to that is what you said, you know, a bullet point of who you are and what your idea is, and most importantly, why this is interesting to the good food audience.
Yeah,
that's what we really, really want more than anything. Why is this right for the good food audience? Show us that you know our audience and that we can't turn this idea away.
Yeah, fantastic. Again, show knowledge. Gaby, a thought on, you know, young talent or new writers?
Yeah, I mean, I think even more than us wanting PR emails that are extremely well drafted, I think I'd expect freelance journalists to know how to send me a killer pitch, and a killer pitch will still get a commission, but it needs to be something one of my own writers can't get. So I suppose it's a really good story that they've eked out, or an idea that is so dazzling and sparkling that I can't turn it down. And I know I'm being a bit vague here, but it's something that absolutely, I just read that and I think, oh my God, that's genius. But that is what it's going to take at the moment. I wish it was easier, and I love seeing new talent come through. But I mean, the business is tough, and all of us, being frank, you know, we're already good at managing tight budgets. Budgets are getting tighter. And so we are writing more and more content in-house, and that is just a fact. But we do still commission out for bloody good ideas. So just make that idea really good and tell the story at the top, right at the top. What's the story?
Brilliant. Just get straight to it. Cheeky one from Nick Heath at Big Drop Brewing Company. He wants Keith's home address because he wants to send you some beer. So if you give us your address afterwards, that'd be great. And I think maybe one for Laura here. You made the point about Olive wanting national distribution. Somebody has said, it's Jill Newnham at Benetopia said, is an Amazon listing enough? Is it good enough if there's a business website and they've got a good reputation for home deliveries from their premises? Is that good enough, or do you always look for retail?
No, online, I mean, particularly at the moment, online's absolutely fine. I think obviously if it was a big online retailer and there was a big markup on delivery, then that would be something that we would consider, because we still want it to be good value for whatever product that we choose, and represent a good, like you say, good shopping experience, whether that be through their own online retailer or choosing another partner to work with. But and it doesn't have to be kind of like a comprehensive, but as long as it's available either online or in some retailers across the UK, then we'd be interested. And like I said, there's also opportunities on other platforms. So even if we can't feature that product in the pages, but we absolutely love it, and like Gaby said, there's a really great story to tell with a great producer, then there's opportunities on the podcast or in other areas of the magazine as well.
Well, that's really helpful. We've got a lot of requests for your contact details from various people. We've run over, and I don't want to take the P here, so I think we'll bring today's webinar to a close. But can I just thank our absolutely fabulous panel so much from Food4Media for having given up your time to join us and join our audience of PRs and give such great insights. I really appreciate it. Leah Hyslop, Keith Kendrick, Laura Rowe, and Gaby Huddart. It's been great, everyone. Thank you for joining us. See you at the next time, and let's hope that we can still fit Christmas in this year.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.